Well, we've done the detailed introduction of Sonny Perdue, and so we're all looking forward to hearing from him. So let's bring him up here, our 31st Secretary of Agriculture.
Sir, thank you. I told him of all the introductions I've had lately, that's probably the most honest. So good morning, I think, out here, right? So good to see y'all. I've got an observation to make, though. We drove in this morning left a flight from D.C., and I came in and I looked as we came into the venue where you all are meeting. And I need to tell you, I was with the grain guys the other day at the Red Roof Inn. I should have stayed in the fertilizer business. So y'all doing okay. Well, it's good to see you and good to be with you. I feel right at home, obviously, from a standpoint of kind of feeling like it's a reunion. I understand my good friend and our longtime favorite co-worker, Jake Redmond's name's been invoked. And Ken, I hope you can come up afterwards. And I feel like I know you from Jake's wonderful descriptions and the fellowship and the relationship that you all had. So I hope that we can visit here. And he sends his regards. And we go all the way back to the NFSA days with the solutions, and prior to the group getting together in 25 years ago. And I know you all are celebrating that here tonight, and I understand you all had a great visit last night. So it's good to be with you. I feel right at home, and I do think that we can probably speak the same language without an interpreter or translator needed in this room today. So obviously you all are right in that supply chain in agriculture that really is needed. We talk a lot about our farmers, our ranchers, our producers, and all the things they do to make America productive and so blessed in so many ways with food security and national security. But we know that it just doesn't happen. They have to have the resources to do that. And you're that link and that connection with them over helping to get them the right products, the right advice, the right counsel, from a seed, crop protection, from nutrients and all those kind of things. So I know that you have the ear of the farmers, and today I also want to have a candid conversation with you about some of the benefits and some of the challenges that we have as I see in D.C. So you take them back, and frankly, I also want to develop a relationship with you because farmers and people we serve, our constituency, talks to you. They tell you what's on their mind. Most of the time, farmers aren't very timid. If your customers are like mine were, they'll tell you what's on their mind if you ask them. Most of them will tell you what's on their mind if you don't ask them. So we want to hear, because that's really, in the Trump administration, one of the things that I've been most excited about is that this president expects us to get out across the country and talk to real people outside of D.C. Nobody up there in that administration, that cabinet, thinks that we got all the answers within that beltway and within that bubble in D.C. And that's why I think my folks told me last week we counted about 85 flights in 6 months I'd been on, getting all across the country. That's including 2 RV tours as well. So our goal is to get out and to hear from people. And today, while I'm going to do most of the talking, we want to provide you an avenue to respond back in a way that can inform us about where we need to go with ag policy. And we've got some challenges there. We've got some opportunities ahead, I think. It's amazing that we have had another year of almost record crops in the spite of less than ideal weather. And I think, again, it goes to your efforts and your support and the biotechnology, the genetics, all the resources from precision ag and the things that you help your customers with. And I know that you'll continue to do that because we need that. And coming pretty soon, we're going to have a lot of hungry mouths to feed. And right now, while we've had really about 4 or 5 good growing seasons all over the world, we just need to sell more, and that's what we're about as well. Well, we are in pretty interesting days right now. You know, last night the Senate just passed their agreement to proceed with the tax vote, and we're hoping that comes today. The President is very excited about that, and I'm excited about it. And by the way, I'm not going to speak too long today because aside from standing in the way of a golf outing, I know I'm the last speaker before lunch, And so, and you all are heading out of town, so I'm not going to keep you very long here today, but I do want to talk to you about some of the things that I think are important that we need to hear from you as you collect, hopefully your receivables, but as you collect information from farmers too, we want to hear what's on their mind, where you can translate that to us in that way. But tax reform is right up there. I've told people all across, is that one of those regulations that we fear, and we'll talk more about regulation reform in a minute, but one of those is taxes is a pretty big regulation. It impairs, and it really is over all that we do, because people like to think about farming as this mythical kind of lifestyle, and it is. It's a great lifestyle, but you don't get to do it very long as a lifestyle if you don't make money at it. And obviously taxes have become one big expense and in that regard. So what we're seeing in the proposals here, a lot of good. Some we wish we could change, but you're going to get a little bit of things you have to give up sometimes in order to get the real nugget of lower rates, a simple thing, and certainly doing away with that hated and dreaded estate tax that most farmers have to either plan for or live with, or their families have to face in that. It's kind of an unfunny joke, but most of us always know that farmers typically have kind of lived poor and died rich, and that's when the tax man comes calling. So hopefully we can get this death tax eliminated once and for all, where our farmers can concentrate over what they do best, and that's growing food for the world. So, you know, the House passed the bill. The interesting thing about this piece of legislation, it's one of the few pieces of legislation that's really being done by regular order. This is the way the Founding Fathers expected things to do. Tax revenue bills beginning in the House, being passed by the House, the Senate passes their version, and then they come to conference committee. So it's not done yet, so your voice is important. When you see the things that you don't like, I know we've got some co-ops in here with Section 199, you need to let your voice be heard. That's what ARA is all about. You need to speak through your associations, but you also need to speak independently as well. Talk to your House members. Talk to your members of Congress and let them know what's on your mind. I can't stand up here and tell you to call them about any particular provision of it. That's not my role. I'm in the executive branch that administers what they pass. But I can tell you, an engaged democracy is the best thing we can have in America today to get engaged. Having been in your shoes for many years, I was always too busy to do that. And we didn't reach out like we had. And I regret that, because I would probably have that cynical, skeptical attitude. Well, their minds are already made up. They propose this rule. They want comments. They know what they're going to do anyway, right? Is that what you think? No, that's not right. When we propose rules in USDA, we're looking for legitimate comments from people that are affected by the proposed rule. And your voice collectively in an association matters, but your voice independently matters. So pay attention as the ARA team sends you out information about what you ought to be commenting on. It's pretty simple these days. Send an email, and those things have to be read, they have to be responded to, and they have to be taken into consideration. So that's one of the main things I want to talk to you today about, your responsibility. No longer can you just sit back there and work hard like you always do to get those supplies out there, get those the farmers taken care of, get your customers taken care of. You've got to be engaged in this process, because there are people on the other side, I think you probably already know, that are pretty engaged all the time. In fact, I don't know what else they do besides engaging. So the fact is that you know that to be true, and you know who they are. And you've got folks like that, the activists and others, who are going to be in your business and in your face as much as they can, trying to pour more regulation on you, trying to keep products away from the utilization and to stymie you in that regard. So if you don't hear anything else I say today, listen to me about being engaged in the democratic process. And then, frankly, if you don't feel like your voice is being heard in any particular section, whether it's elected or unelected, there's something that comes around every 2 and 4 years, and I would admonish you to utilize that as well, independently and as an association as well. So I hope you'll take that to heart. I want to say it in the bright spirit Don't do like I did for many years, even though I was in the state legislature and served an 8-year sabbatical as governor. While I was working there, I didn't ever feel like I had time to weigh in. It matters, it counts, and please, please, please make your voice heard over various things, whether it's various issues. I know that the industry as a whole, agriculture as a whole, did a wonderful job with the waters of the U.S. You see what happened there. It's been withdrawn, and Administrator Scott Pruitt is looking at that, how we can make a common sense regulation about water without this confiscatory land grabbing rule like we had to deal with, where many of your customers would have been just in a pickle all the time and threat of not only civil but criminal penalties over those kind of things. Don't let that happen. Don't let it happen. And I'm telling you, having been in cabinet meetings, this is the president who, in spite of all the things that he tweets, he listens. And he will listen, and I've seen his mind changed over facts and things that make a difference. So don't sit here and think that your voice doesn't matter and it doesn't count. That's the main message I want to tell you today. It's important. It's important for the future of American agriculture. It's important for the future of food security of this nation, which I think equalizes national security on a global scale. We got a lot of problems today in there. We got a lot of problems got a lot of people who think they have problems with our food supply. It's kind of like that old Chinese proverb I use a lot. I don't know whether it's a Chinese proverb or not, but it sounds pretty good. It says, if man has not enough to eat, he has one problem. If he has enough to eat, he has many problems. Folks, we got many problems across this country today because we've been so comfortable in our food security. You and your customers have produced an abundant, nutritious, healthy, safety food supply for this world. We've become so complacent, we just think it happens. It doesn't just happen, and it's going to take all of us to stay engaged in that area. So tax reform is important. Weigh in on that, on the things you like about it, the things you don't like about it, and it'll go to conference hopefully when the Senate passes it tonight. So weigh in with those elected officials on the things that you want to see in that, and what makes sense from yourself. As you know, our president has been very demonstrative in regulation reform. When I first got to the confirmation process, it took about 100 days to figure out if they wanted me to serve or not in the Senate. I heard really three things primarily. I heard really about labor, I heard about trade, and I heard about regulation. And we're working on all those. The president's heard the same thing, and irrespective of what you hear about, we'll talk a little bit about NAFTA in a minute. I do believe the president wants an agreement, but mostly he wants to deregulate us and take off all these handcuffs that we've had placed on us by the fourth estate over many, many years. Not just the last 8 years, and they've been abundant in the last 8 years, but even before that, the kind of things that we've seen grow out and just sort of mushroom into many tentacles, things that are so common sense, like the Clean Water Act and the Endangered Species Act, things that just sound really good. We've got another one now that's just passed not too long ago, is going to kind of have tentacles everywhere that you got to be engaged in, and that's FSMA. You know, who could be against the Food Safety Act, right? Food safety modernization, but it's going to create some real havoc for you and your producers as they try to do the jobs that they need to do. And you've got to be engaged in talking about those things that make a difference. So obviously one of the first things the president did was tell us in the executive branch, for every regulation you want to put in, you better take 2 off. And that's what we've done. We submitted about 250 this last fall, back in October, to OMB. They have to go through and check that and make sure that it's really saving money. And those are the kind of things that have grown up. It's just like an onion, just layer by layer by layer. It's been layered on, lacquered on for years. And I think I know this president has directed us to start peeling those things back, freeing and liberating this American economy to be productive again. I've told him face to face, I said, you know, Mr. President, I truly believe if American manufacturing had had the same advantage of basic research, applied research, and a delivery system like the Extension Service, I don't think we'd be talking about the demise of American manufacturing. When you look at the productivity increases over the last 75 years in agriculture, it's been absolutely phenomenal. Even this year, as I said, in less than ideal circumstances, the kind of corn yields and kind of grain yields we had out there were just pretty phenomenal. Almost a record, a second record. And I remember back when the first report came out, all the guys were fussing at me about your NASS guys are overestimating. They're making the market bad and all those kind of things. Well, it turned out the NASS guys were more accurate than the farmers out there who kept seeing those bushels coming at combine row after row. So those are the things that we want to deal with in regulatory reform, and we want to do that. You may have known right after I started, we went out to an elementary school. The USDA is broad and vast and wide, and it covers a lot of things. School lunches. Back when I was first nominated, I had a childhood friend that was telling his granddaughter about what the USDA secretary was responsible. And he said, honey, you won't believe that Mr. Sonny's going to be in charge of school lunches. She said, is that right? Well, do you think Mr. Sonny can make school lunches great again? So, and that's what we're trying to do. We rolled back some and stayed some regulations that when we looked at the data and listened to school nutrition professionals, we used to call them school lunch ladies across in my part of the world, then when we listened to them, the kids, they'd put it on the plate and they'd go straight to the trash can, dump it, and go back to stop at a fast food restaurant or a convenience store on the way home and get those 5 and 6 and 1,000 calorie meals there that we were trying to provide healthy with, because with fully whole grain, I don't know if you ever had fully whole grain pasta or not, but it's pretty challenging. And but anyway, with 14 grandchildren, I've heard enough of that as well. So those are the kind of things we're trying to make a difference. Let's just put some common sense back in. And that's really what the president wants to do, I think. I think he's assembled a cabinet of mostly private sector people who understand what makes this economy tick, and that's really what we want to do. I know he's thrilled. In fact, he's a guy that always wants more. He's a little bit like me from the private sector, sooner rather than later, more rather than less, and keep on going. He was, even in the third quarter with the hurricanes, he was rather satisfied with the 3% GDP growth that many people said could not happen, and now seeing it's been upgraded to 3.3%. He says, okay, let's go for 5. So that's the kind of guy I like to follow, is that how can we get this economy pumped up, and what can we do? And obviously one of those things certainly has to do with international trade. That's one of our biggest challenges. We've had fairly good global weather in most all sectors of crop growing regions of the world. Over the last 4 or 5 years, we've got a glut of commodities out here, and we've just sworn in a new Undersecretary of Trade, Ted McKinney from Indiana, who's on the road all the time. He's in Colombia, Panama this week. He's been in India. Where can we sell, knocking on doors? Where can we introduce more great U.S. products? The good thing about it is the world likes our U.S. products. Their governments don't, because of their still protectionist philosophy, and particularly in the EU, in Europe. I had a chance to be on a panel, or I didn't have a chance. I mean, I had to go, but at the G7 Ag Ministerial in Bergamo, Italy, there. And, the goal was to eliminate world hunger by 2030. And I just had to look at some of those guys in the eye and say, you bunch of hypocrites. You want to eliminate world hunger by 2030, but you don't want to use the products that are going to get us there. And that's the kind of thing that we need to talk about. I said, it's amazing to me, French guy, that you're so concerned about GMOs and those things, and there's no scientific evidence they've ever harmed anybody, but every second or third of your citizens are walking down the street smoking a cigarette. Have you heard about that? So they don't have any answer for that, and they don't like that kind of plain speaking, but that's the kind of stuff that we've got to be out here talking. I try to be a gentleman, I really do. But anyway. So what is our philosophy at USDA? My goal is to be the most effective, the most efficient, the best run, the most customer-focused agency in the federal government. And I don't want my press shop. I don't want my communications team to say that. I want to be judged by you when we finish here. Are we going to do that or not? And we're going to work every day for that goal in mind. The good news is we got a great array of professionals there, career people who are buying into that culture. They're really enthused about delivering services. We've got some issues out in our FSA offices and our NRCS offices right now over personnel. We've had a hiring freeze, but I'm trying to get our undersecretary for our new organization called FPAC, which is the Farm Production and Conservation Agency there. Bill Northey of Iowa is the Ag Secretary, is our nominated undersecretary. He's passed the committee, but one of the senators right now has a hold on his vote in the Senate, and we're hoping to get him relief pretty soon. I need him out there to tell us who we need where and what that is. We got acting people who are doing a good job there, but there's nothing like leadership at the top, and Bill knows this space and did that. You may have heard of some of the organization there. We combined we took the NRCS out of the forestry group and put it with our FSA crowd because, and along with the RMA and the crop insurance crowd, because just like you got to have a customer-facing type of thing. They shouldn't have to go different places or fill out different forms and those kind of things. We're trying to, just like you want to make it easier on serving your customers, you want them to do business with you. We want them to do business with us, do it easier, faster, friendlier, and easier in that regard. So those are the kind of things that we're doing. We want to, when we ask about regulations, we want to say, does it make sense? Does it protect the public at a reasonable cost? What's the cost for compliance? What's the risk-reward relationship? Does it prevent and manage risk? What are our partners? What are those impacted by it say? Is there a better way to achieve what we want to do? Those are the kind of things that we want to talk about as we go forward here. And we want to talk about really what's the meaning, what's the philosophical, what's the ideological. We've seen a lot of regulations that have been put in place not based on sound science, but based on a political belief or a religious belief or a philosophical bent that determined that, not what the data did. When I said about our aspiration for USDA, I want us to be facts-based and data-driven and sound science, and that's what ought to go. And if the facts don't substantiate what I feel and what I want to have happen, we need to follow the facts. And was the regulation put in place? Why was it put in place to begin with? Was it based on science with sound data, or is it based on a hidden agenda or a philosophical viewpoint that's not supported by the sound science and sound data? So those are the kind of things that we want to do. Let me talk a little bit about trade. It's obvious on everyone's mind. It's on your customer's mind. You know that. When we've got such productivity capacity in this country, we've got to sell it. And we're trying to do everything we can to tear down protectionist provisions, tariff provisions all over the world. And the president was in Asia just a couple of weeks ago, and his message to them was, one way to solve this deficit that we're determined to get down, this trade deficit we enjoy with your country, is for you to buy more ag products. And that's what we're telling them. That's a great way. You can either sell less to us or buy more. And we've got some good stuff to sell you. It's good, it's wholesome, it's healthy, and your people want it. And that's what we hope to do. So I don't know what's going to happen at the end of the day with NAFTA. I do believe the president wants a deal. He's a tough negotiator. And if you've read his book, The Art of the Deal, he goes right to the brink sometimes. So there may be some nervous things in between the time now and we get a deal. But I'm convinced our president wants a deal because he knows the power of the ag economy. He knows the political power of the ag economy. He knows who voted for him, who didn't. And he wants to make sure that we have a healthy, growing, thriving farm economy because he knows that's the contribution to the American economy as well. So he is absolutely focused on trade deficits, frankly, which not necessarily, we got an agricultural trade surplus. So he's thinking more about manufactured products in NAFTA. Obviously in Canada, we may have some friends here from Canada, but if they're going to use a supply management system in their dairy, they need to manage the supply. They're overproducing and decreasing global milk prices because of that very high price they give on their quotas for their domestic use, and they're blending those margins. You all know about blended margins. They're blending those margins, and it's not fair to our dairy people here in the United States. So obviously another thing that should be on your mind, I believe it is, that's infrastructure. We've got waterways, inland waterways. We've got rail. We've got highways. And we've got other types of things haven't really thought about infrastructure. When I visited the Illinois Farm Progress Show, and some of your folks in the equipment business showed me some of the precision agriculture, it was stunning. Do you know what it depends on? Broadband everywhere, not only at the farmhouse, not only in the farm community, not only in town, but in the fields around America. We've got to, in order to use the technology that we can go, we've got to have connectivity to broadband everywhere. I was at another equipment manufacturer the other day developing a neat sprayer. The technology is already there with optical cameras to identify weeds and just spray those specific noxious weeds there as they go along. I'm sorry, probably not as much crop protection chemicals going to be used, but nevertheless, it's going to be more. Your farmers are going to be more productive, happier, and they're going to be able to pay you. How about that? So that's what we all want. I've been there. In fact, I wasn't a good enough banker to be in the fertilizer business. So, but anyway, you're my kind of folks, and I want to thank you for what you do in helping agriculture be so productive, and we want to help our customers survive and thrive. We got a farm bill coming up, as you know. It's important to weigh in on that. What's working, what's not working, and what needs to be changed. I think the farm bill will be evolutionary rather than revolutionary, meaning that we won't see major changes. We saw some major changes from 8 to 14 with direct payments. I think you're going to see a farm bill with a safety net balanced primarily with crop insurance, I believe, as it should be. One person described to me the safety net, though. He said, safety nets are interesting, but they got to be at the right place. Think of a trapeze act. You go to the circus and see the trapeze act. If the net were right up under the high wire, it wouldn't be very exciting, wouldn't it? But think about this. If it's down on the concrete floor, it'd hurt, wouldn't it? So we want a safety net that keeps people where they can do it again, but we don't want farmers farming for the program. We don't want farmers farming for a government program. In fact, most of the customers I know, and I think your customers as well, would much rather have a good crop at a fair price than any kind of government program. And that's the goal as we go forward, and we'll need your input. You talk to these people, you see what's happened. In fact, in the connection between farm products, financing, and marketing, you all are right in that nexus. You're right in the middle hub of that in helping your customers know how to do that. And it's important that you all weigh in on those kind of things, and I look forward to working with you, hearing from you about that. So our mission at USDA is bold, it's broad, it's deep, it's wide, and I love the job. People said, how do you like Washington, D.C.? I said, I love the job. But anyway, it's a good job, and everything from preserving our forest and all those, and it's really a passion and a calling for me. Mary and I were very happy in Bon Air, Georgia, with 14 grandchildren. I didn't go looking for this job, but it's right up my alley, and we're going to do our very best over these next ever how many months to make sure that agriculture thrives. We represent a wonderful salt of the earth constituency across America. The president understands that, and I just want you to know I'm thankful for the opportunity to speak with you today, and I look forward to what you're going to do for American agriculture and for America. So as you travel home today, safe travels, and I wish for you and your customers and your families a very Merry Christmas and a happy and prosperous New Year. May God bless you and God bless America. Thank you so much.
That so it's okay.
Thank you, sir.